Richard Hart.
Hello, Sugi.
This is Richard Hart, from President of UNIMA Australia, and he is going to demonstrate some of his puppets. So, Richard, would you like to tell us what your puppets are from, what show they're from?
The show's called Dreamer in the Deep, which is a blacklight production, and it's based around this character here, which is called Dreamer, and Dreamer's like a child. You might notice that the colours are very bright because they're painted with fluorescent colours. They look a little bit daggy under an ordinary sunlight, but under black light they look amazing. And the show has got a theme about the ocean, so I've got some sea creatures here, and including a version of Dreamer in scuba gear. So I think you're interested in seeing how some of these mechanisms or controls work. This is actually a one-person production, so most of the puppets are actually designed to be either worked with one hand or two hands at the most. This one here, Dreamer in a scuba outfit, is predominantly designed to be used with one hand, so I can actually get the movement of the legs with one movement of the thumb like that, and there's a bit of elastic on the head to get that kind of movement, or I can also pick it up and do that, get more control as well. So from the front you can see that there's a brass rod. I'm using rods for controls because they're much more direct, there's no sloppiness or slackness. And I've used ball joints from hobby shops, both ends as connectors. And the leg mechanism is actually quite a sophisticated design based on Dick Smith, who was a famous makeup artist in American films. I think he's been dead for about a decade. So that's how that one works. So you can't really see how that works without taking the costume off. But you can get the basic idea that it's actually worked with one hand like that. Alright. This is a deep sea cucumber, which actually lives off the bottom of the deep ocean. They like little vacuum cleaners, they go around and suck up stuff that kicks all this food that just snows down from the top of the ocean down to the bottom. And it's only seen from one side, so if I move the legs, I'll move the puppet, of course, which gives the impression that the legs are actually doing something like that. And I can show you how it works. It's just a very fairly simple mechanism. And the control, there you go, and the control mirrors the, well actually does pretty much the same as what it does down at the bottom. There you go. Hello Louis. Louis is just down there.
Louis is a dog.
Louis is a dog. Now Dreamer is pretty much like any kind of marionette design. So it's got, I've used aluminium joints, which are nice and strong, so it's got all the characteristics of a marionette. If I put strings on it, it would work as a marionette. This is Dreamer's body, his skeleton. Okay. Sorry Dreamer. And I've used aluminium with multiple joints as a backbone. If you learn a few skills with metalworking, aluminium is an excellent material for puppets because it's light, easy to work with, and not that expensive. And Dreamer has an opposable thumb on the left hand, which can mean that Dreamer can pick things up, actually quite heavy things, and put them down again.
And would you like to explain how that mechanism works?
This has got, I like to use rods, steel rods. This is a steel rod which goes through a brass tube through the arm, and as close as possible to the thumb it connects to a lever. So it's pushing it like that, and then to close it, it pulls it back again. So it's push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. And it's just working with the thumb like that. there's a bit of elastic there to just keep it closed so it doesn't fall over. So it's a very direct fail-safe mechanism unless this gets bent, but it's unlikely being steel rod. And also ensuring that it's a bit like a bicycle brake cable. It allows something to go through it, but it still keeps it intact so it doesn't bend. And here we've got a leafy sea dragon, which I learnt this weekend that they're actually quite common, not only just in the southern part of Australia, or actually they're rare, but they're more diversely found around Australia than I thought, so they're actually in New South Wales as well. This one here is actually designed to be worked with the left hand. There's a thumb control there which moves the tail, which works better this way. I can lift the head up as well. Leafy sea dragons tend to be fairly inarticulate when they swim, so I'm actually being a bit more over dramatic with the way I move it. But it can also be worked with two hands as well to get even more movement. And it can be turned upside down and work. So basically it's a marionette, but I've used steel rods instead of strings, which gives it that direct control. Also makes it easy to store because they don't get tangled. And to connect this part to the control, I've used curtain spring cable. You know what I mean by that?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is makes it, gives a fairly.
And where is that curtain spring cable attached?
It attaches this part, it goes right through into there. So that holds it in place.
And I've just realised, for people who don't know what a curtain spring cable is, it's a coil.
It's usually white. You get it in Spotlight or any shop that sells curtains, and you put screw hooks in it, stretch it across, and then you put a curtain on it. Very common, very easy to get. And there's a little hinge there. Now, I don't know if you can see, this is another area again which I got quite often I use brass tubing where you can get different diameters which all telescope into each other, the telescopic tubing. In other words, they fit very neatly into each other. And in this case I've used two different diameters, and the inner tube there, I've used a thicker one to give it strength. That goes right into here. And at the other end I've actually just squashed the tube with a pair of wire cutters. And then, but prior to that I put a washer in so it stops it coming out. And I've done the same thing this end here, as I put a washer and then squashed up the end of the brass tube with a wire cutter so it won't come out.
Genius.
It's very simple. And it means that, you know, with the brass tubing that you've cut off, you can use that same brass tubing again the other way around, so you can just do it in reverse.
Great. So there's one more puppet that you'd like to show us. What is this one, Richard?
I don't know. Have a guess.
I think it's a shark.
Yes, I think it's a shark too. Very simple. Basically just one rod close to the head, so that most of the body is left free to flop. And what I've done is just use an electric carving knife to go cut slashes in the foam, so it opens up like those
Looks like a Hasselback potato.
Yeah, you know, those wooden snakes you get.
Yeah.
And I've used flexible kitchen cutting board for the backbone, which goes right into the head.
And is there any weight in the tail? Added weight or just
Not really.
just
no.
foam?
If there's the actual strength of the cutting board does resist quite a bit of weight there, but it's not needed because it's so flexible, just the slightest twist will.
And these are blacklight puppets.
These are black light. Well, it's painted with fluorescent.
So it looks very different in the show.
Yeah. Probably needs to go to a dentist. There you go. That's just a little bit. A little bit.
A little bit. Well, thank you very much, Richard, for showing us all your puppets.
Absolute pleasure.